And welcome to First Bite, our Pride of Detroit midweek podcast, our preview podcast where we look at the upcoming matchup for the Detroit Lions. It's preseason week 2. We're going to Pittsburgh here on Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. We're here to talk about it. My name's Jeremy Reisman. I'm the editor-in-chief at Pride of Detroit, at Detroit Online on Twitter. With me, as always, for First Bite is Ryan Matthews, our editor-in-chief, or not editor, or senior editor. You suddenly stolen my job.
I got a promotion, folks, and you are all here to witness it. I'd like to thank all the little people. Two big things ahead for the Detroit Lions.
Two big things?
Lots of big things.
Oh, I thought you said two. More than two things.
I said week 2.
Week
big
2.
Things ahead for the Detroit Lions.
That's right. There is a matchup with the Steelers, one that should be certainly interesting, a bit more of a litmus test than the first week against the Bills, because Mike Tomlin did say last week, and assuming things have not changed, the Steelers will be playing some of their starters. It's worth noting that they had the Hall of Fame game, they had last week's game, so this is preseason week 3 for them, and we all know preseason week 3 in tradition has been that dress rehearsal game, and so they're going to treat it that way since they still get the 4 preseason games while everyone else is getting 3. So on this podcast, we're going to preview it. We're going to break it down just like we did last week. We're going to start with the offense and look at things that we're looking for. Not going to talk too much about the Steelers because, again, the Lions aren't game planning. The Steelers actually are game planning a little bit, which should be kind of an interesting match here where the Lions aren't doing so much and the Pittsburgh Steelers are. But let's start there on offense. Do you want to go position by position, I guess, and just kind of talk about some of the key storylines here? Quarterback, we can start there. I think maybe the most interesting or kind of up in the air thing is Tim Boyle, who hurt his ankle in last week's game. And it did sound like Dan Campbell expected him to be back in there on Saturday, but didn't practice during the scrimmage on Tuesday, and we'll see where he's at on Thursday. What are you looking to see from this quarterback group on Saturday?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit on the POD cast, but I'm interested to see whether or not they end up flipping Boyle and Blau. Yeah. And if Blau gets some run with if he gets some run with the twos, I think that would be a good look for him. Maybe not something he's probably super stoked about with the way that offensive line protected or not protected Tim Boyle in week 2, or in week 1, I should say. But here's the thing with Boyle. I thought that his performance was really gutsy. He played through that ankle injury, so I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him out on the field again for the second preseason game. And even if they don't switch it up, even if Tim Boyle is still number 2 and David Blau is number 3, I still don't think that really provides any clarity to me. I don't think that that'll be like a definitive, okay, Boyle's 2, Blau is 3. What do you think about that? Do you think that it depends on how they play in terms of, or I guess when they play?
Yeah, I mean, I still very much think that position is up for grabs in quarterback too, and I think a lot of people are just assuming Boyle's in, and I'm not there yet. And I'm still of the camp that this team is going to keep 3 quarterbacks, so maybe the designation isn't all that important until something happens to Jared Goff. But I at this point, especially with the injury, I think I expect David Blau to be QB2 in this game. Maybe I'm wrong there, but just given the way that they've changed things week in, week out, or day in, day out, really, at training camp, I think it makes sense to switch him and give Dave Blau a chance to go up against what is notoriously a pretty good Steelers defense, and go against some of the better plays instead of the ones that are playing in the third and fourth quarter. The other news there is Jordan Ta'amu. The Lions signed him this week. I don't think we're going to see him on Saturday. I'd be a little bit surprised if we saw him on Saturday. So let's talk about Goff really quick, because I thought he had a decent debut in preseason game 1. So is there anything more you need to see out of him, or is it just kind of more of the same, like keep doing well?
Yeah, well, I remember last week when we talked about what I was not interested in seeing, but like chomping at the bit to see, and what you were chomping at the bit to see in week 1 of the preseason. I was really gung-ho, and I was ready to see Jared Goff take some shots downfield. Didn't really see a ton of that. Maybe saw, 2 of those plays to Tyrell Williams, one of them where he connected on the sideline. for a pretty big gain, and
Yeah.
then also the shot he took to the end zone. Maybe it's just not who Jared Goff is going to be. So maybe just kind of relinquish those dreams of utilizing that speed on the outside. But for Goff, I think largely what I was impressed with, or what I came away from preseason game one with, was that Goff is going to play within himself, and he's going to make the throws that he can make. And he's outside of that first pass that he threw, Jeremy. I wasn't too worried about any throw that he made.
Yeah.
The pass that he made to Darren Fells, where he fit that in a nice tight window, that was something that maybe I wasn't too familiar with Jared Goff. So that was a bit it was a bit surprising, but it was also a bit reassuring. It's like, okay, well, I mean, we've made much ado about this guy's arm strength, but I mean, he can make throws like that, and that's an NFL throw.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to seeing Goff play against, as you mentioned, a Steelers defense that's usually talked up quite a bit. So, um, is there anything specific you're looking for from Goff in the second game?
I'm going to keep it real simple. I want a first string offense touchdown.
Okay,
That's it.
that's
Like
fair.
I need to see this team capable of putting a full drive together. A lot of times in training camp, we've seen them, been able to move down the field a little bit between the 20s, but then red zone has been kind of an issue as of late. And I mean, it's understandable. They don't have Swift. They don't have TJ Hawkinson. I don't expect either of those guys to play on Saturday. So, but injuries happen. And so Goff is going to have to find someone to be that red zone threat. In case those guys are missing in the regular season. So whether it's Amon-Ra or maybe it's Darren Fells or maybe Tyrell Williams uses his length, I want to see something happen there and someone reliable there. And so I don't know. We'll see if it happens. Like we said, good Steelers defense. But let's move to running backs because the running backs were kind of the story of the offense last game with a couple no names just stepping right in and making a big impression. What are you looking for from the running backs group on Saturday?
Well, I thought you were going to say for two reasons, right? Like the running backs were
Yeah.
a big story because well, ostensibly running back 2 and running back 3 with no DeAndre Swift didn't really generate a whole lot of yards on the ground between Williams uh,
Jamar.
and Jamar.
Yeah.
So I'm, I want to see. I guess it coincides or it goes hand in hand with the offensive line too, because we'd be remiss without saying that there was a PFF stat, and it was something that was very apparent from just watching the game. Not a whole lot of running room for those running backs to hit holes and things like that. As Jamal Williams was hit at the line 7 out of 9 carries. So I want to see that. I want to see that first team offensive line create a little bit more running room for Williams in this game. I think that'll be really encouraging to see as that offensive line continues to gel. Jamar Jefferson has to have some more production. He needs to pop on tape a little bit more than he did in week one. And I'm not saying that he's at risk of not having a spot on this team at all by any means, because I'm not going to overreact to just one game in the preseason. But like you said, Jeremy, it's kind of hard to not be impressed or come away impressed from that first game that Craig Reynolds has, and even Dedrick Mills, somebody who by for all intents and purposes wasn't doing a whole lot to impress in training camp. So
Yeah.
what are your expectations from this group in this game?
I mean, I think a lot is on the line for everyone. I mean, you mentioned it, like Dedrick Mills and Craig Reynolds. They both had really good days, and it's not like they had considerably better blocking. Like they made the yardage for themselves, and so I mean, that's how you make it in the NFL as a running back. I mean, it's great to have good blocking, and if you have a really good offensive line, sometimes it doesn't matter who you throw back in there. But there are going to be times in which the blocking isn't there, whether it's the offensive line or tight ends or wide receiver screwing it up. You're going to have to create yards of their own. So yeah, I'm with you. I want to see some yards created on his own by Jamar Jefferson. I want to see maybe a little bit out of Jamal Williams too. Like you said, I don't think either of those guys are necessarily in trouble in terms of their roster spot, but I need to see something out of those guys. I need. They've been kind of quiet since Swift has been out, and Swift is almost certainly going to be out in this game. So give me some optimism. It's not life or death for these guys, and if we have another slow game in the running game, I'm not going to consider it dead on arrival. but I need to see something there, and I don't really know what to expect, but it's a tough Steelers team, and so every inch is going to be earned, and so I need to see some of these guys earn it.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note too is that we've really keyed in on this running game being an important part of the success to this Lions offense,
Yeah.
right? Like it's going to be absolutely critical in order for them to be successful through the air, for them to put together a really rock solid running game. And if they come away, throughout this entire preseason without showing that, it's gonna be tough sledding
Yeah.
in 2021.
And honestly, like that's the whole reason I'm kind of holding off on my overall judgment of the offense in training camp. I mean, it hasn't been great. I think you can ask anyone who's been there every day, and they probably came away thinking worse of the offense than they did going in. But if they have a good running game, which is something really hard to judge during training camp when there's no live tackling, it can change a lot. It can make this team an average to a good, or a bad to average, or good to great. And so I'm still kind of waiting to see how it all comes together. And the fact of the matter is we have to see it come together at least a little bit in the preseason for me to have any sort of confidence that it will in the regular season.
Yeah, and I think to that point too, when we look at the tight ends and we look at their depth, watching game one, it was pretty apparent that while the Lions weren't doing a whole lot with, from tackle to tackle in terms of, providing rushing lanes and things like that for running backs, like the tight ends weren't really holding up their end of the bargain either when it came to blocking. So I like you said, TJ Hawkinson probably not going to show up in preseason game two. So you got Darren Fells there as the de facto number one. And behind that, it's gonna be shaken up, right? I mean, we have Alize Mack, who did not have a great showing in week one, so he's really got to bounce back in a big way. And I mean, the injury to Charlie T, I mean, that can't go without saying either. So I
Yep.
mean, what's going to happen in preseason game two? Because the tight end discussion is something that we've talked about to death
Yeah.
in terms of having no depth beyond Darren Fells, and tight end three we all agree is going to be a very important position on this team.
I mean, this is a huge opportunity for both Alize Mack and Hunter Thedford because I don't know if you saw, but Brock Wright wasn't at practice on Tuesday. He was
Oh
injured.
wow, okay.
So the Lions are down to 3 healthy tight ends right now. And that's I mean, as if the position wasn't concerning enough right now. Having that happen to Charlie T and having Brock Wright go out means, I mean, it's Alize Mack, it's Hunter Thedford, or it's someone they have to pick up off of waivers. And I'm starting to think maybe that's where this is headed because there just isn't anyone that's shown anything, and getting playing time will help. And so if Alize Mack can show something, if Hunter Thedford can show just blocking, like just someone block out there, just throw a block in the run game, spring one run, and I'll start to feel a little bit better about this position. But at this point, no one has won that position. No one has even taken a step towards winning that position, which I think is a big concern. And so I think it's Alize Mack right now, only because he's repping there. But like you said, it wasn't a very good first preseason game for him. It has been a great camp for him. So they need to find something, and Saturday they'll get the reps. So hopefully they find something there.
So I think what you said was really interesting in terms of where the Lions might have to look for their tight end depth, and it might be outside of this roster right now.
Yeah.
Would you be at all shocked? Because when you take a look at what the Lions have in draft capital for 2022, they have a couple of 7th round picks.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to have a couple of 5th round and 6th round picks. Would you be shocked if the Lions maybe even made a deal using one of those lower picks because tight end 3 is such an important position?
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, you might not be getting, weekly snaps out of that guy, but I mean, if either one of those guys goes down, they're two really, really talented players, and you're going to need someone to at least give you replacement level play, because they are so integral to everything the Lions do. So yeah, no, I mean, 6th, 7th round pick. You hate throwing away draft capital, period. But I don't know, throwing away I mean, when you're talking about these sort of deals, they're usually 7th, and sometimes they're even conditional 7th. So that's no sweat off my back.
Yeah, for sure.
Wide receivers? Oh, wide receivers. Let's not skip the wide receivers, because
I love the big men though.
The one interesting thing about the wide receivers is that they're finally all healthy. Basically,
Hmm.
everyone is contributing. Damian Ratley was the one that I didn't see participate in team drills, but everyone else is healthy, which means our first chance to see Brashad Perriman, first chance to see Quintus Cephas this year. Um, are those the guys that you're circling in on, or is there something else you're looking for from this unit as a whole?
I think we as a collective have written off Geronimo Allison. We've written off maybe Damian Ratley. Tom Kennedy had a really big week one,
Yeah,
but I mean, you'd have to see some big play in weeks 2 and weeks 3 combined with the guys you just mentioned, like Quintez Cephas and Brashad Perryman, like kind of like no show. So, um, in order for Kennedy to have a legitimate spot of getting on the roster, Victor Bolden is somebody who really can benefit from putting some good tape in week 2 after having a really rough week 1. But I think it is encouraging that at least the wide receiver room is getting healthy in the preseason where the Lions can see what they have.
yeah,
And you know, there hasn't been a whole lot to talk about, like you said, for the offense as a whole during training camp. It's been not so great. It's been murky, muddy waters for them. So I'm interested in seeing what Brashad Perryman can bring to the table if he is healthy, and that's something that he's just struggled with his entire career.
sure.
So it's one of those things where even if he has a big game, it's not going to do a whole lot to reassure me or to kind of bring me down in terms of my anxiety level when it comes to this offense. Obviously, I think all of our eyes are going to be glued to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Of course.
We want to see what he can do in week 2 after having a really impressive week 1. Tyrell Williams made some big catches, but I think what really it comes back to your original point about the offense as a whole. Like you want to see them go score a touchdown. I don't know if necessarily they're going to get it done on the ground. I want to see Jared Goff throw for a touchdown. I want to
Sure.
see him utilize one of these wide receivers. And I don't care if it's in the red zone. I don't care if it's a yak play, whatever it is. I want to see one of these wide receivers just break out and say like, hey, if I'm Tyrell Williams, I'm the number one wide receiver. If I'm on Ross St. Brown, I'm the slot receiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Quintez Cephas, if he wants to have a role in this team, go out and make a big play and solidify your spot as the number 2, outside wide receiver.
I'm circling two guys out of this group. One
Okay.
is Perriman. Uh, I'm curious as to where his standing is on the team right now because he entered camp as the obvious number 2 opposite Tyrell Williams. Right now he's repping with the second team offense behind Khalif Raymond, who has kind of assumed that wide receiver 2 role. I don't know if that's just easing Perriman in from the injury or if that's you lost your spot because you weren't making plays and then you were injured. And so I need to see something out of him. And I listen. I think it's a little bit early to talk about him potentially being on the roster bubble, but I'm not ruling it out completely because he just has not shown much at all. And so I think he needs to take this opportunity, especially if he's repping with twos and repping against the Steelers twos. That means he should be dominating those guys. I need to see something there. The other guy, you kind of brushed him off, but I'm not ready to brush him off. I think Tom Kennedy's got a shot to make this team. He's been making plays all camp, and yes, that's usually with the second and third. But I think Victor Bolden and his struggles has opened up a window for maybe that 6th spot on the wide receiver depth chart. And one interesting fact that I've noticed in camp last week is that Tom Kennedy is repping ahead of Victor Bolden when it comes to punt return and kick returns. And that can't be a good sign for Victor Bolden, and that has to be considered a good sign for Tom Kennedy. And so I think there's a chance Tom Kennedy sneaks onto this roster, and another good performance on Saturday would kind of be another big step towards there.
No, that's absolutely one way you can make yourself useful and indisposable. The one thing that I think could happen, I'm not going to say that it will happen, but I think there's an outside chance or an outside shot that Brashad Perryman might not make the team.
That's
I mean, his
that's what I'm
his
saying.
con
Yeah.
well, so that's the thing though, Jeremy, is that so Perryman gets signed.
Yep.
There's obviously this mass exodus of the wide receiver room. No Kenny Galladay, no Marvin Jones, no Danny Amendola, Jamal Agnew. They're all gone. And then Tyrell Williams comes in and Brashad Perryman come in, and it's almost like a foregone conclusion. Like, okay, Perryman's the number 2,
Right.
and Tyrell Williams is the number 1. I mean, Brashad Perryman signed a 1-year, $3 million contract with $2 million of it guaranteed. I don't think that's anything that's going to guarantee you a spot on the roster if one of these guys outperforms you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an ideal contract to absorb, just eating $2 million of a $3 million contract, but this team's in a position where they can do something like that, right? Like if they find a younger
Yeah.
player that has more potential, like yeah, have him take over Perriman's spot. Like I said, I don't think it's come to that yet, but I think it needs to remain a possibility that Perriman just doesn't work out here and gets a cut before September.
Yeah. Yeah. Offensive line.
Let's do it.
All
Uh,
right, let's talk about it.
So in terms of injuries, again, this is a unit that's starting to look healthy again. The only guy who's out is Tyrell Crosby. Don't expect him to play. Um, I guess with the first string offense, I mean, I look back at that performance, and I think you did too as well. And you look back and you're like, I know I know Goff got sacked on the first drive. I know the running game didn't get over 2 yards of carry, but it didn't really seem like the offensive line performed that poorly, right?
I don't think so. I mean, in the report card, I gave him a C, and I know that your initial reaction was like, that might be a little high. But I even think after
Yeah,
you went back and did your Panay Sewell deep watch, I mean, are you kind of at the same conclusion? Like,
yeah, I am.
maybe we were victims of expectation. I
Yeah,
think.
sure. But I mean, I guess okay. So let's move forward to this game. Obviously,
Hmm.
the Steelers have a pretty good defensive front there, so it's going to be a big test for a lot of these guys, assuming some of those major players play. Um, is there a goal you have set in mind? Is it no sacks allowed? Is it? I mean, we talked about the running game a little bit. Do they need to hit a benchmark yards per carry, or is it just kind of like let's just see how it overall comes together and make sure like everything does seem to be coming together at the speed we want it to?
You would hope that there would be a little bit more production on the ground when it comes to the run game.
Yeah.
Like but here's the thing. It's such a low bar to clear, right? I mean, last week really set the bar low. So you would hope that they would at least clear it. If they don't clear it, then I think that there's a little bit of cause for concern. When it comes to pass protection, I thought the Lions did a really good job in pass protection with that first team offensive line. They're really going to get tested this week, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if Pittsburgh has a lot of their starters playing, you're talking about T.J. Watt, who, if he's not the best pass rusher in the NFL, he's the second best pass rusher in the NFL. You got Cameron Hayward on that line. They signed Melvin Ingram, a name that a lot of Lions fans were enamored with, but they have the juice when it comes to pass rushing. I want to see Jared Goff upright. I want to see no sacks. I want to see that guy clean in the pocket, making throws, stepping up, making throws. So that's where I'm at in terms of expectation with the line. You gotta do better for the running backs, and you got to keep Jared Goff clean because that's the only way this offense is going to work. If Jared Goff is under duress, it's going to be tough sledding.
It's gonna be ugly.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing I'm looking at with the offensive line is that right side because I think there's still a lot of concern around Halapuli Vaitai at right guard, and then Panay Sewell is obviously just someone you want to keep a close eye on. The guy's not going to be perfect. He's going to have some bumps in the road like he did in game one, but as long as he continues to get better and rebound from those mistakes, right? Like I think with a rookie, sometimes when you make a mistake, your concern is that they snowball into something else. Well, I think last week was a good example of maybe that Panay's probably not that guy because I thought his second drive was fantastic. So as long as we aren't seeing the same mistakes, it's okay to see some mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? For the first week of the preseason, when Panay Sewell, quote unquote, gave up that sack, in his first start, it reminded me of Taylor Decker's first game when James Harrison
Yeah.
blew right by him
Yep.
for a sack. And I think Taylor Decker is doing pretty well for himself these days. So,
All right. That's it for the offense. When we come back, we're going to talk about that defense. I know there's one guy that everyone is very excited to see make his NFL debut. We'll talk about him and a lot more when we come back here on First Bite. Do I have a two-person off-air thing? I don't think I do. We'll just stick here. All right, let me get to some alerts really quick. We had a bunch of alerts, as we typically do at the beginning of the stream. Brendan, 102597. Thank you for following. Then we had Lions Wow. Lions Wow has subscribed for 23 months, Ryan. 23.
That's 2 years.
That's almost 2 years. That's correct. And we've only been streaming for just under 3, I think. So you've been with us almost since the beginning. And then since, we were affiliate. Right around there. So appreciate the support, Lions Wow. J. Russ. Oh, there comes another one. Hold on. J. Russ with the 5 months using that Twitch Prime uses also the Jamal Williams awesome high emote, which is probably my favorite one right now. Then we had, I need to catch up. Where did we go here? Sorry, I got scrolled out of where I was. Gray Den, thank you for the follow. Whoa, Apex. Whoa. Apex with the 10 gifted subs. Appreciate that, man. Love the support you give to the channel. Ice Cecil subscribed for 3 months in a row at tier 2, one of those rare tier 2, tier 3 subscribers. Always appreciate the extra support there, Cecil. It says 1 week closer. Indeed we are. What are we, like 3 weeks away from football? 4 weeks away from football? Pretty darn close. Man.
Not as close as you want to be, but it'll be here before you know it.
That's a good way to put it. Cordy, Aaron, our good friend, drops 17 bits, says 17 for the 17 games the Lions will win this season. Whoa. Does that include playoffs? Or they go 17?
I didn't think Chris already put out his Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid recipe.
Then we had Florida Lion with the follow. Appreciate that. Got some family in Florida. Got love for Florida. Forever Loin with the tier 1 subscription. You all right over there?
Yeah, I just thought of a great username. Florida Georgia Lion.
I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Constrictor came in here with the 13 months using that Twitch Prime. Love seeing you around here, Constrictor. And then Derek Bobero just dropped 100 bits with a dog emote that says Barrick. Oh, Bo Barrick. See, you were trying to tell me how to say your last name and I blew it. Bo Barrick. Got it. There we go. Apex says that this team hasn't won a single playoff game since I've been alive. I have great faith this staff gets us there.
Heck yeah. I'm feeling really good about this staff.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, it's hard not to. And I think that we've talked about it on our Green Room podcast that we do on Saturday mornings where you, the listener, can call in and talk to us, ask us questions.
That you, not me. That you.
Yeah, that you out there. If I was talking about you, I'd point over there. But on our Green Room podcast, whatever, dude. So left is right, right is left, up is down, whatever. But the point I was trying to make, which I've driven all the way out of the way to come back to, is
and
that
I've made you forgot. Nope.
I'm there now. I finally got it back. You want to see how this coaching staff handles adversity, right? Because Dan Campbell has been in a place, since his stint in Miami, he's been in a place in New Orleans where, they've known nothing but success. Yeah. Aaron Glenn, bounced around a little bit, did a little bit in New York with the Jets, did something, with the Cleveland Browns, and then, comes from that New Orleans success as well. So you want to see how these guys react to adversity. And I like their demeanor now, but I'm interested to see what happens when that comes along.
I feel like I have to use that perfect segue to talk about some adversity that the coaching staff did face already this week. There was a couple things, and it made for a very sullen press conference yesterday. We don't need to get back into the drunk driving incident. That is what it is. I think we talked about it enough in the last podcast, but I see some people in the chat talking about it. And so, I don't want to fully address this now because I think we'll talk about it a little bit more in either locker room or full POD cast. But Uh, the release of Don Muhlbach certainly came as a surprise to many. A lot of people understood the move. A lot of people still hated it. And even more, there were a lot of people that questioned how it was handled. And so
Mm-hmm.
Eric and I just talked about it a little bit in our mailbag. But I'm curious as to what your thoughts were. I guess, I don't know, breaking down the move itself, we don't really need to do. I mean, man was 40 years old. Eventually this was going to happen. And so I guess the act of cutting Don Muhlbach, to me at least, not that unexpected, not that bad of a move. I think more of the concern comes with how it was done.
Yeah, well, first things first, I think from here on out, instead of calling things mailbags, we call them mule bags. That can be one way that we can
Damn it.
honor
I should have had you edit that article. Dang it.
Don's legacy. Um, you know, for a guy who was the longest tenured Lion on the roster, maybe you would hope that it would come in a different way. I think that's all I really have to say, or to kind of add to the discussion that's already been had. Like, you would just hope that you know this front office, or I guess the front office of the front office in regards to Rod Wood, like we just saw Calvin Johnson rebuff an offer to make amends with the Detroit Lions, and I'm not saying that this is like on on the level of Calvin Johnson by any means, but you would just hope that there would be extra care taken to make sure that waivings and things like that are done in a really delicate way.
Yeah. Listen, I think Dan Campbell in his press conference was very sensitive about it, and I think they probably, in terms of like the way they actually went through cutting the guy, was very sensitive. And they put out a statement. Martha or Sheila put out a statement. They put together all these graphics and stuff, and like all that was handled well, and I think with the appropriate sensitivity, that the situation warranted. But like I mean, the Lions took a PR hit for something they could have completely avoided. Like, you wait a week, not. I mean, everyone at the beginning of that day is like, wow, look how awesome Don Muhlbach is getting treated for his 40th birthday. The players put a rocking chair in his room, and Jared Goff bought this huge 40 light thing to put in his locker, and like everyone's having fun, and it's just like, did you guys just not know it was his birthday? Like, what are you doing? Like, there was no. They were already under the 85-man limit. They didn't need to create a roster spot room for the outside linebacker that's going to last 2 weeks here, who got waived and not claimed by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like the timing of it, it makes no sense. If you're going to make this move, fine, but just how much of a PR hit is it? I already saw people making fun of him. It's just fun of the Lions, just outside of the organization, being like, this is the most Lions thing you could ever do, is like have your friend, your teammates all like enjoying this joyous moment where, I mean, let's be honest, like this isn't just a 40th birthday. This is a 40th birthday in the NFL. How many players get that opportunity to celebrate that on an NFL team? Not many. It's a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, I think Frank Gore has celebrated it actually a few times. How many times has he turned 40? But I totally agree with you, Jeremy. Like, I agree with you from the standpoint, either you didn't know it was his birthday, or it was just a bad decision that you made. Like, it's one of those two things.
Neither are good. I don't know which one's worse, but neither are good. And
no,
listen, like, here are the counter arguments. You want Scott Daly to get as much reps in before the regular season. Great. Give him reps anyways. Rep him ahead of Don Muhlbach. Problem solved. You want to give Don Muhlbach the opportunity to land somewhere else. This dude has been in the NFL for 18 years and hasn't moved. Do you think this guy wants to get up and go play somewhere else when he's lived in Detroit for the past 20 years?
Probably not.
Probably not. He didn't seem all that. I mean, he obviously wanted to come back here in Detroit, but it's something he had to think about. So I don't buy that either. I think this was just I don't know. Like, I mean, I hate to bury a franchise that's under a new regime and new ownership and all that sort of stuff. But like, this is the kind of like weird tone deaf stuff that I was hoping the Lions were past, right?
I do, here's the thing. I'm having trouble coming to terms with these things. Like, I liked everything this Lions coaching staff has been doing up until like now. And I don't want to overreact to the long snapper
Sure.
getting cut,
Right.
but he's not a long snapper. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and and I don't know if we've necessarily like memed Don Muhlbach's importance into existence or what it's been, but I'm just saying if you go around the league, I don't think you find other people in the stands wearing long snapper jerseys because teams are cycling through them all. Like it's a
Right.
testament that Don Muhlbach has been here so long. And I mean, the other thing is just, I mean, Dan Campbell Dan Campbell played with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, it's not that it was like such a vicious move. It was so disrespect. It wasn't any of that. It was just that it was completely avoidable. That's my issue. Is that it was something that they could have completely avoided. And yes, cutting down Muhlbach is going to be an unpopular thing no matter when you do it. People are going to get upset. People are going to scream at the GM and whatever. But I mean, you made things so much worse for yourself for no reason. No reason at all. And this wasn't Muhlbach. I see some people. This wasn't Muhlbach approaching them about retirement. If you watch Dan Campbell's presser, he talked about it. Like they brought him in. They had a very solemn conversation. He even said, Muhlbach was a little upset, but like he knew this was part of the deal. And like I said at the beginning, like I don't have a problem with cutting Muhlbach. I don't. Like he's 40. I think one of the beat writers put it really well. Put it in a really interesting way because when we think about long snapper, all we think about is a snap. But like on punt returns, do you really want a 40-year-old there trying to like stop a touchdown from happening on a punt return? Or would you rather have the 27-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a 40-year-old or the eternal Don Muhlbach, I'm gonna pick the eternal Don Muhlbach. I hear some other interesting things. Totally didn't know that he graduated from Texas A&M. Do you know whose alma mater that is?
Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, that's we can move on from that. Like I said, we'll probably talk about it a little bit more on the POD cast, so it'll be on the recorded version of everything. But I felt like we had to say that.
2-time Pro Bowler Don Muhlbach.
Can we just give him a Pro Bowl for this year? Making him all pro as someone who's not even playing anymore, presumably.
This is the thing, Jeremy. We can't get upset about the long snapper, but we are upset about the long snapper, and it doesn't feel out of whack. I don't know. I hope whoever made the wrong decision in the front office, whoever it was, immediately realized their mistake. Yeah, speaking of wrong decisions, like Dan just says, I hope he joins Matt in Arizona. Just a mass exodus of former Lions special teamers going to Arizona. I guess that would make sense, right? Maybe it's time for retirement, and that's just like the next step along the journey is to getting comfortable in snowbird territory.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of people retire in Arizona, so if he wants to go rejoin man, by the way, I was watching Hard Knocks today, and they played Arizona. And I was quickly reminded of what I knew that last Friday night, which is that Matt Prater both had the game tying and the game winning field goal in the last 3 minutes of that game.
DJ Craig? What?
Is that real? CJ Craig says, my lawyer used to date Mule back in his Texas A&M days. I think she still has some feelings for him. Get in line. That's what I have to say to that.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, Cordy Aaron, I think I think that's a really eloquent way to put it. Like, you are allowed to get upset about suddenly losing a player who has been with your favorite team for, 17 years.
I think I saw some people like Don Muhlbach on the Lions predates some of Lions fans these days. That's insane.
Oh my gosh. Don Muhlbach is as old as like a senior in high school
Yeah, his
in
Lions
terms of
career is
his
old
Lions
as
career. Yeah.
Muhlbach has one tackle in the last 4 seasons. Yeah, I mean that kind of speaks to my point as maybe he's not the best guy to have out there after the snap happens. But we'll see how the Scott Daly era treats us. If we want to talk about long snapper wins, I suppose we can. So and maybe that's what it was. It was burying the demons of the 2018.
Barry Blue Jeans. It's better to have loved the mule and lost than to never have loved him at all. I think this is a life lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think we can jump back in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why y'all trying to? I'm not trying to make you sad. The team is trying to make you sad. No. No. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. All right, give me a second. We're going to get right back into this. Talk a little defense. Let me bring my roster sheet out here just in case I need it. And we are back here on First Bite preseason. Ugh. Let me start that over.
Hell yeah.
And we are back on First Bite previewing the Lions preseason game 2 against the Steelers coming up this Saturday night. Going to the defense after we talked a bunch about the offense up front. I don't want to waste any time here, Ryan. I think everyone's eyes are on the same person when it comes to preseason game 2, and that is Levi Onwuzurike, who returned to practice on Tuesday in a big way. First time with the pads on. Seemed like he hit the ground running. Back injury, not an issue at all. So it seems like he's on track to play on Saturday. We don't really know how much he's going to play. The Lions might want to ease him in there, but he certainly doesn't sound like he wants to be eased in there. And they didn't really ease him in on Tuesday's practice. He was in there a lot. So how, on a level 1 to 10, how excited are you to see Levi out there, and what are your expectations in his first game?
Before he returned to practice, and I read all of the, just ranting and raving that the Lions beat did about Levi's, ostensibly his like training camp padded debut. It was at like a 7. Now it's at a 9. I want to see this guy out on the field, and it kind of just brings me back to watching tape of him after the Lions had drafted him. We had a quote unquote first bite where we got to talk to somebody from Washington, who had nothing but awesome things to say about Levi as football player, as as a person and stuff. Who he's clearly a football player, who happens to just have a ton of athleticism, and I want to see what he can do with that athleticism along the interior. And seeing him potentially playing next to Liam McNeil and going against the Steelers' first team offensive line, that's what I want to see. That's I wasn't gonna say that it was the thing that I'm most excited about, but I'm kind of pumping myself up about it right now.
Yeah, I am too, and I think there's so many reasons I'm excited for him. And I think the biggest is just the confidence that exudes out of this guy. It's almost like Amon-Ra St. Brown on the defense, because we saw it with his opening press conference, right? Like he wants to fuck shit up, like that. He still has that attitude. I think maybe people have forgotten about it. I had kind of forgotten about it until he met with the media yesterday, and just like, I don't know, someone asked him like, you missed all this time. Are you doing mental reps on the side? How long is it going to take you to kind of like get back into football shape? He's like, oh, I'm there. One practice and I'm good. And then someone asked him, okay, well, regular season's 3-4 weeks away. How much do you think you need before you're going to be comfortable to start in a regular season game? I don't know, 2 or 3 more practices. That's it. He just needs a week. That's all he needs to get ready. And the dude is chomping at the bit. He's a guy that also opted out. So I think there's just a lot of eagerness and anticipation on his side. And the fact that he just came out like a cannon yesterday, I'm 10 out of 10 completely. I am 6 to midnight.
Dude, I was just about to say that I'm right there with you, but I probably shouldn't say that now. The thing that I like to hear the most about Levi was that the Lions were being really, they were being precautionary
Yeah.
with his back, and that totally makes sense given all of Levi's comments, because this is a guy who's probably been ready to go, chomping at the bit, ready to get on that line, and like you said, his words, not ours, but fuck shit up. That's a guy who just is ready to be out there, and good thing, good on the Lions for taking it slow with him, and but that takes me to the rest of the defensive line, which I think that there's a lot of depth here, and
Yeah.
I think that there are some things to sort out on this defensive line, because there are some guys who are just playing really well. I mean, Kevin Strong is making every possible he's making every possible play to show you that he belongs on this team. And even a guy like Bruce Hector, who the Lions
Yeah.
signed,
Right at the
a
beginning of
couple
camp.
weeks
Yeah.
ago, yeah. And while it seemed like, okay, here's just another run stuffing, camp body, this is a guy who played his tail off in preseason week 1. This is a guy who, Chris Burke from the Athletic is raving about, in his 5 things that he always notices from practice. I'm really encouraged by all the depth that the Lions have on this defensive line. I'm really intrigued to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some tough decisions that the Lions have to make, and it's not helping that all the starters are, continuing to miss time. I don't know if we'll see Michael Brockers in this game. They seem to be very, very cautious with him. Obviously, Nick Williams still on COVID. Deshaun Hand dealing with the injury that he is. But yeah, I mean, Bruce Hector's playing well. Kevin Strong's playing well. I even think Jashawn Cornell has shown things at time, and the decision for him is going to be easy because he's going to start the season on the suspended list. But once he comes back, there's a case to be made that he should stick around. And so it's a really interesting group of interior defenders that I think if there's any position on this team that might have someone, swiped up on waivers once the Lions have to release a guy or two, it's probably this group that the Lions are going to miss out on a guy.
Yeah, I think that can be said for the entire team.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know anyone else, any other position
I
that's even close to the depth that they've shown here.
No, but you want to get into the linebackers a little bit, kind of lump them in with the.
Let's take a quick break since both of our bots just failed. Not great.
Well, at least we have a mark.
True. That was a perfect mark. That's odd. That hasn't happened in a real long time.
Again, if anybody can
now recording
of a better recording bot on Discord, please do so.
Also, chat, I'm going to turn off alerts from now on just in case we have to rip from the actual Twitch feed. So if anyone subscribes or does any of that sort of stuff, I will try to address it after we're done. But yeah, I got to be careful here.
All right, give it a second and I'll get back to it.
Do we want to do edge first or linebackers first?
I was going to lump them in with the linebackers, but yeah, I mean.
That's fine.
Okay.
Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
So now, Jeremy, I think we can turn our attention to the linebackers, and even we'll lump in the edge rushers with this group as well, just because of how this base defense is going to look like and things like that. So, look, I guess we should probably jump to the edge, because that was maybe the talk of preseason week 1 was the performance of Julian Okwara as a pass rusher. Is there something that he needs to do in the run game that's going to make you say, all right, this guy can play and get significant playing time on this defense, or is that something that he just kind of needs to do along the way this regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's something that I'm just going to expect to be fixed this week, It's not something that he's just going to be like, oh, now we can set the edge perfectly. No, it's something that's going to have to develop, because this is essentially his rookie season. At least it feels that way, especially in a new system. So, I mean, I kind of just want to see more of the same, because my expectations for him in this year is really predominantly as a pass rusher. And sure, if you're going to make it in this league long term, you're going to have to develop a lot more than just being able to pass rush. But like we said on some other podcasts, I think his role this year is really just going to kind of predominantly be that pass rusher role that comes in on third downs. If an injury happens, maybe he'll be relied on to do some more of that sort of stuff. But I think I would rather see him improve a little bit upon, some dropping into coverage skills. And he might only get an opportunity or two to do it on Saturday's game. But since he's going to be in there for third downs, they're going to use him for a lot of pass rush, but then they're also probably going to drop into coverage a couple times to try to, confuse offenses. So that's one thing that I'd like to see out of Julian Okwara in week 2 here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think this maybe goes right hand in hand with what your expectations are for Okwara going into the season as probably being a situational pass rusher. But you look at a guy like Charles Harris, who didn't play in preseason week 1, and many had pegged him as that, quote unquote, situational pass rusher should he stay on the team. Like you mentioned on the podcast, Jeremy, not playing in a preseason game can be one of two things. Either the coaching staff is real comfortable with you and they're giving you kind of that veteran time off, or things are trending in the other direction and the coaching staff wants to see what the other guys can do. If that's the case for Charles Harris, oh man, Julian Okwara had a really good game. I don't know how comfortable I'm feeling if I'm Charles Harris necessarily, but and then the guy on the other side, Austin Bryant, this is a guy who, it seems like he's just perpetually on the pup, and it seemed, he was doomed to be stuck in a similar situation at the beginning of camp. He came off pup, practice in training camp, preseason week 1. He had a really, really stellar game, like rock solid, like to the point where it's like, all right, if this guy can stay healthy, this is what he can do, because he's stuck around for this long for a reason, through 2 coaching staffs now. So I don't know, like, do you start to get really concerned if Charles Harris doesn't play here in preseason week 2? And then also, how are you feeling about Austin Bryant's chances to make the roster?
I mean, those are 2 great questions, because I'm not really sure about about Charles Harris at this point, because part of me thinks like, okay, they really wanted to get a long look at Julian Okwara last week, and I think that probably came at the expense of Charles Harris. And to me, maybe that just speaks to them being more sure of what they know about Charles Harris. We don't know if that's a positive thing or a negative thing yet. But now that Julian Okwara has his feet wet, I would expect Charles Harris to play, and if he doesn't, then I think that's a big red flag. As for Austin Bryant, he's making it hard for me. I've been trying to keep a floating 53-man roster prediction in the background for a while, and it's been between Austin Bryant and Charles Harris, and lately I've been dabbling with the idea of keeping them both, keeping 5 edge rushers, because Austin Bryant is making it really hard for me to be like, he's injured, get rid of him. Like, this is his first full off season where he's been able to train, and it shows already. And so if he can continue that in the preseason, then I'm going to start thinking about keeping 5, unless Charles Harris is on his way out, which also wouldn't surprise me. The only mitigating factor there is that he's got a $1.75 million fully guaranteed contract, so another kind of big bullet for them to eat if they decide to move on from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're talking about some of these defensive linemen. Bruce Hector, the 2nd best PFF grade in week 1. Austin Bryant, the 3rd best PFF grade. Kevin Strong, the 4th best PFF grade among all defenders. As we move to linebackers, though, let's talk about the guy who had the number 1 PFF grade first, because that's Derek Barnes, man. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people are getting really excited over 8 snaps. I think that they have every right to be, because the Lions haven't had a linebacker who's had this kind of athleticism since DeAndre Levy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been some time. Ever since Patricia came to town and brought those hulking linebackers with him, it's been something that the Lions have been severely lacking in. And I was relieved when I was watching Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears play, and they cut to Christian Jones on defense, and I'm like, okay, good, he's elsewhere. In the linebackers, I think the 2 biggest things that we're watching are obviously 1, Derek Barnes, 2, Jelani Tavai.
Yeah.
Is this week a make or break week for Jelani Tavai? Can he withstand 2 bad games in a row?
It's a great question. I think the answer might be no. The coaching staff still seems to really love him and really support him, and Tavai is working his ass off to get to where he needs to be. I still maintain that some of the mistakes that we saw in week 1 were not characteristic of what we've seen from him. Not the kind of the sideline to sideline speed. That was the main concern for him in the past 2 years, and that's not the issue. I mean, let's be honest too. Like, I think a lot of people's assessment of Tavai's play was based on two things: the touchdown he gave up and his PFF grade, both of which were unexcusable. But when you break down the actual mistakes he made, like, I didn't see that much that I don't know, that I don't think he could clean up. So I could see a potential bounce back game from him. I'm rooting for the guy. I know a lot of people just want him off the team, and I understand that, like, his second round pick that hasn't, bore any fruit in 2.5 years or whatever, but it's a huge game for him, no doubt. And listen, he was put into a tough position, having to learn a new defense and lose 20, 30 pounds and just figuring out how it all works. But it's also a defense that's not completely unfamiliar to him. It's something similar to what he was running in college. So the Lions can't wait on him forever. They can't wait on him to grasp everything that's new and figure out how to move sideline to sideline with a new body type. But so yeah, I think Saturday is huge for him. And then Derek Barnes, I hope they give him a little more playtime this game. I'm not ready to crown him as the next middle linebacker of this team for the next 10 years or anything like that. But yeah, definitely building up on a pretty solid first game. So let's see a little more Nate snaps and see what he can do.
Yeah, I think the one other storyline real quick with the linebackers is obviously Sean Dion Hamilton, injured, not going to be out there for week 2. And that opens up the opportunity for some other guys, right? I mean, obviously Derek Barnes was somebody who roster lock.
Yep.
Okay. Jamie Collins, Alex Anzalone. But beyond that, I mean, we just talked about Jelani Tavai. This is a guy who's on the bubble. Now we're looking at guys like Devontae Beckett, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who, we feel a little bit more comfortable with putting him on the roster because of what he brings in terms of his special teams ability. But, I mean, the Sean Dion Hamilton news is kind of maybe the biggest news about the Lions in terms of their personnel outside of Don Muhlbach, and we'll talk about that on the podcast. But this is like the big person roster because the Packer was already, and a guy who looked like he could potentially be some depth they could call upon is no longer an option.
Yeah. I think you mentioned Devontae Beckett. Anthony Pittman is another guy that can really jump on that opportunity. And so, yeah, I think when you jump into the second half, if you're still watching the Lions preseason game in the second half, those are two guys that I think you need to be watching.
Yeah, Wayne State, homegrown Anthony Pittman.
Joik Bell. Let's go to corners, because I think we mentioned this on a couple podcasts, how disappointed we were that we didn't get to see what Jeff Okudah looks like, what Amani Oruwariye looks like against a first-team offense, against a team that's actually willing to pass the ball, since Mitch Trubisky threw it two times before leaving the game. Like we mentioned at the top, it does look like Ben Roethlisberger is going to play in this game, so hopefully something happens there. Obviously, Chase Claypool probably not going to play, but what are you hoping to see? Just are you just want to sit back and see what happens, or is there something that you really need to see on Saturday?
Yeah, I know how we keep on going like level by level, and it's like, oh no, this is something to watch. This is something to watch. I think with the cornerbacks coinciding with what you just mentioned, they weren't really tested in week 1 because throw out your LOLs because of Trubisky, and also Davis Webb because he looked like he wanted to run more than he wanted to pass, and honestly that worked pretty well. So I think you want to see the corners tested. They were tested differently in week 1 than I hope they're tested in week 2. I thought they did a pretty good job in terms of their contributions in run defense. I think a lot of them were pretty sure tacklers. I think that they, supported well in the run, and they kind of went unnoticed because they went untested. And I want to see, if Chase Claypool doesn't play because he did suffer that injury in camp this week, there's Juju Smith-Schuster. There's Deontay Johnson. There are other guys who are legitimate NFL wide receivers that are going to be lined up, opposite of Okudah, opposite of Oruwariye. I think Mike Ford is just he's it at slot. I think that I would even probably put him ahead of Nickel Roby-Coleman at this point. And what to make of Cornell there in his situation. What to make of what we do with some of the outside corners. I think the most pressing issue is probably figuring out, like, who's the first man up outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. Like, is it Mike Ford? They're giving him more opportunities. The release of Quentin Dunbar really caused a seismic kind of shift in the depth there, because now you.
It knocked people out of position.
Yeah, it knocked
Bobby Price game's over.
Bobby Price, yeah, a guy who's getting a lot of play on special teams, so it's clear the Lions value a guy like that. But he gave up the quote unquote game winning pass on last Friday. He looked like a guy to be picked on during the scrimmage on Tuesday. He's really going through it right now, and of course he should be. Like, he just transitioned to cornerback last week. It's a brand new position, nothing like safety. He's got the athletic traits, but he's going to be extremely raw. And yeah, like, who is that corner 3? Are they giving it to Ifeatu Melifonwu right away? Because he's progressed. He's gotten better through camp, but I don't know if he's there yet. Like, that's a big risk. And suddenly you're starting Jeff Okudah in year 2, Amani Oruwariye in year 3, and Ifeatu Melifonwu is year 3 in year 1. Like, this is an extreme. Like, you are putting a lot of faith in Aubrey Pleasant and Aaron Glenn there. Scary.
Yeah, a ton, which is why I initially saw the Nickel Roby-Coleman transaction as, okay, I get it. Like, Ford is going to be that first guy they call upon. And he can kind of move outside, and maybe, Roby-Coleman moves to the... Nickel Roby-Coleman have a really bad pass interference penalty against him in preseason game week 1. Not to say that that's going to completely define who he is, but I think with all of the comments we've heard out of camp, I think, like, the nickel job is Mike Ford's to lose at this point. I don't necessarily see a way that Nickel Roby-Coleman is going to, like, outplay him in a couple weeks.
It's hard to say. If they need Mike Ford to be the outside guy, maybe they just want to focus on him repping there and give the job to Roby-Coleman. I think that's definitely something to continue to keep an eye on too, because Cornelder has missed now like 2-3 weeks of camp, and it's starting to look like he's not going to be an answer there, which means it's Mike Ford and it's Roby-Coleman. It's just not sure what the order is there. And with the more complications on the outside as well, it's just that cornerback group needs to show something in a hurry. And like I said, like, we're not even talking about the top 2 guys who haven't proven anything in this league yet either. So it's a position with a lot of potential, but not a lot of proof behind the pudding yet. And so, these preseason games are a nice kind of piece of the puzzle for us.
If there's one thing I want to see this game, I want to see the Steelers pass the ball 30 plus times
in the first quarter.
Yeah.
How about interception too? It's been a while since we've seen a pick.
I want to see them go empty backfield. The last line of defense, safety. Not a great showing for Tracy Walker in week 1.
No, limited, but not bad. Yeah,
limited, but not. I mean, I think that he's one player that a lot of people are expecting to have a huge bounce back season. So
yeah,
let's see what he does in week 2, right? Will Harris, kind of.
I've seen some progress in camp. I'd like to see it in a game situation.
For sure. Obviously, when you look at those 2 guys, though, it's a matter of, getting snaps and, actually seeing more playing time, because that's another thing we didn't even talk about, Jamie Collins and Alex Anzalone, but we got 11 snaps out of them, right? In preseason week 1. So when you talk about the safeties, I think the one safety that I was probably most impressed with was Dean Marlowe, who I know we've kind of put some expectations on him to be, that third safety. And I know the Lions often go with that, like, split safety look on defense, or that's what they're planning on doing. So I was really impressed with Dean Marlowe. Do you think that there's a chance that he becomes the number 2 guy?
It would have to come out of nowhere, because I do think this team really likes the way Will Harris is playing, and he's basically been getting every single first team rep since the beginning of camp. I'm actually not that interested in the safety group right now, because I kind of feel like it's set. Like, I feel like it's Tracy Walker, Will Harris, Dean Marlowe, CJ Moore. Those are your 4 guys that they're probably going to keep, probably in that order. And I mean, it's interesting because, again, Tracy Walker and Will Harris are kind of like in the same situation as the corners, where it's like they're young, they're moldable, there's a lot of potential there, but we haven't seen it yet. So go out there and show me something. That's all I'm really looking for the safeties. Just show me some of that potential, because I'm starting to even have a little doubts. Like, everyone should have some doubts about Tracy Walker, but I feel like you said, a lot of people are expecting that year 4 jump. I'm starting to doubt it a little bit, and it's not just because of the preseason game. there has been some struggles in camp, and I don't know. We'll see. He's playing with a ton more confidence. He's obviously a lot happier than he was in the past couple of years, but that'll only get you so far. I need to see some on-field production there, and I'm not sure I'm going to get it. And this is his last chance. This is the last year on his rookie deal. So show me now, or we're going to probably find someone else over there.
There you go. I mean, and I guess it should be noted too that Dean Marlowe is primarily like the spell for Tracy Walker, because he's playing primarily that free safety role as opposed to Will Harris. So yeah, I mean that would take a seismic shift in the safety depth for there to be any real shakeup there. Kicker watch 2021 rolls on. Any indication of whether or not we're going to split time here? Was Zane Gonzalez just brought in to kick in practice? Do you think think we're going to see the kicker battle heat up a little bit more?
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised to see him split halves here. Let's just kind of fingers crossed hope that the game situation shows us an opportunity beyond 27-yard field goals or whatever it was in the preseason game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know we just got done talking about the offense and we want them to score touchdowns, but at the same time, like I wouldn't mind them rolling out there for a 54-yard field goal to see if either of these guys can make it. And to be honest, in training camp, they've been pretty good this week in terms of kicking beyond 50 yards. I think Randy missed one yesterday and Zane had one blocked earlier in the week, but I'm not going to blame him for getting one blocked. It didn't seem like it was necessarily his fault in terms of the trajectory of the football. So yeah, just show me something from beyond 40 yards, maybe even one or two from 50. And yeah, I think this is a real kicker battle. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. So obviously Jeremy wants to see a touchdown, but with the second and third team offense, we want them to stall out around the 30 to 35.
All field goals. I don't need to see David Blau throw a touchdown. I don't care.
Would people lose their minds if Dan Campbell just situationally was like, we got to see these guys take a long kick, so
kick it's just third down.
QB kneel for like 3 straight plays, and it's like, all right, kick the field goal.
Yes, they would lose their mind. If they're gonna lose their mind about a like not even that controversial throwing the ball on second down thing, like they're absolutely gonna lose their mind about taking a dive for a field goal attempt.
Yeah. So well, we can go out on this, but situationally, what's the one thing that you want to see the Lions accomplish? Like, what's the one challenge you want to see them in situationally that you see them achieve success with? Because I think for me personally, I want to see them run the ball well on first down, with their first team offense. Like that's the thing. I want to see them on first down 3 to 4 yards. And I think that will continually set up Goff for success. So I want to see the running game be effective early in drives and early in downs. So situationally, that's what I want to see. What about you?
Well, I don't think I'm going to see what I want in this preseason game because I want to see this team run a legitimate 2-minute or 1-minute drill and the first team offense, because we talk about what the identity of this team is going to be, and we talk a lot about dinking and dunking, a lot of underneath stuff. That doesn't cut it in an end-of-game situation. You need chunk plays. You need to get down the field in a hurry. And I need just a sliver of optimism that the Lions are capable of potentially doing something like that in a 2 or 1 minute drill, because we all know Matthew Stafford was good at it. We all know that when the defense knew he was going to go deep, he would still throw it deep and he would still fit it into incredible windows. And they also had a kicker who could make it from 58 yards if they needed to. They don't have any of that anymore. They don't have a good kicker. They don't have a guy who's unafraid of throwing it into tight windows and capable of fitting in tight windows. So I need to figure out what the hell they're going to do in that sort of situation for some success. And like I said, I don't think we're going to get it in this game because I don't think they're going to play that deep into this game. But that's something that I really need to see a good sign for if I'm going to go into 2021 with some optimism that this team can win some close games.
Yeah. All right. Hey, and with that being said, that's it for First Bite. We got the Lions coming up Saturday, playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, 7:30. Keep it tuned in to Pride of Detroit on Twitter, on Facebook. I don't do these outros usually, but I'm doing it right now. For Jeremy Reisman, the actual editor-in-chief of Pride of Detroit, and myself, Ryan Matthews, the senior editor, we will see you Starside.
Wow. Now here's a question. Do you think that Chris even hears that while he's editing this, or is it just like, I mean, he has to, like, he has to find an outro, like he has to find out where the end of the podcast is, right?
Yeah. Low key, I kind of flubbed the ending. I said Steve Starside.
You said what?
Steve? I said Steve Starside. Like I put like a T in C. Outros are hard.
They are. Have you not noticed me struggle all of the time?
Honestly, I think that you do a pretty good job with it. Like it doesn't look like you're straining.
To me, it's not the end; it's the throw to the first, like it's throw to a break that can be tricky sometimes.
Yeah. Let's just say it felt like I was looking for the breadcrumbs, where it seems like you're doing a pretty good job of just like putting them in your basket.
Well, you also, like, the entire time you were smiling because you knew you were being naughty.
Whoa! Hey.
Whoa.
Oh man! Oh, Captain James Kirk. 100 bits. I love this podcast.
Hey,
Android channel.
That's technically not bits. That's just redeeming his channel points.
Aww, I don't know how Twitch works.
But we appreciate. I mean, if you've got 200 channel points, that means you hang around, which we appreciate. But
sick.
what we did miss, and that's because I had alerts off because our recorder wasn't working, and I was afraid we'd have to rip audio. Joshua Mercer dropped a 5-bomb. Which I appreciate. I don't know why it doesn't show up on my mini feed, but it definitely shows up in the chat. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs, Joshua. That is now 426 gifted subs given to this channel in his Twitch career, I guess we'll put it. Appreciate that, Joshua. Always love seeing you here and appreciate all the crazy amount of support you've given us.
Thank you.
You're going to catch up to those 400 Apex? You got a long way to go. And please be financially responsible to yourself. Don't put yourself out.
Yeah.
There you go. One bit. Whoa. Craig with the 5 gifted. Appreciate that. Why didn't that alert go off? For some reason. Oh, there it goes. That was weird. You start betting gifted subs in the season. Ooh. By the way, speaking of like betting on games, we have to figure out when we're going to do the Madden Sim this week. And then we have to see if I'll potentially have the new Madden.
Do you, Jeremy, are you a bookie on these Apex?
10 gifted. We're starting now. Guys, what's happening here? Save it for the regular season.
You guys want me to take my shirt off or what?
How many gifted subs for Ryan to take his shirt off?
I don't want to say a number because I'm going to feel like it's too low. But no, I was asking you, you said, speaking of betting on games, when are we going to do the Madden Sim this week? And I'm like, are you a bookie for the Madden Sim games?
No.
Are you juicing sliders? Are you like juicing ratings? Because
No, the only reason I said that was because sometimes we drop channel point bets during the game, but Joshua Mercer just came in with another 10. Where are we at? Like, so during the offseason, we've been hanging around, like, I don't really like to talk. Oh, it's up in the top. I'm an idiot. We hang around 150, which is more than enough, I think, given that we bullshit for 6 months on here and talk about nothing.
We talk about, like, food. Yeah.
We talk about a lot of food, and we make at least one I think you should leave reference per podcast. We're just absolutely wasting everybody's time.
We talk about Mission Impossible style contraptions that you can use
to pee in the shower.
Just pee in the shower.
Yep. And you guys still watch for some reason and still support for some reason, which we all appreciate. Obviously, at one point we had like 800 subs just because of a mustache. I mean, that shows how ridiculous of a show we run here. But for you guys to support during the lean times when I'm not begging you to support my mustache, that's when I really appreciate it. So the fact that you guys are giving before things are even that exciting here, appreciate that.
Oh my gosh. What are we doing?
Dave Reinfurt 69 with the 5 gifted subs. His first gifted subs ever in the channel. Love seeing that. Appreciate the support, David. Jeremy has still to do just cameos on Mrs. Ruby's channel. I do need at some point we're gonna hook up in real life. We're gonna see each other. Sorry, that was very poorly phrased. Please do not clip that. We are going to hang out together. God damn it, Ryan.
It's my fault. I'm sorry. I took it there.
No one would have said anything. No one would have noticed.
I didn't even say anything. It was just my eyes.
But yeah, no, I don't. Now I've lost what I was going to say.
If you're gonna make an appearance on Mrs. Ruby's show, what would you like to make with Mrs. Ruby? And don't say pizza.
But she makes Detroit style though.
No, something else.
I don't know. She doesn't like pesto, so part of me would want to be like, no, pesto's actually good. Here, let's make it.
Oh, okay.
No, not
pesto is actually good.
Pesto is amazing. I almost like pesto on pasta more than marinara, or like a meat sauce.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm a big pesto guy.
Blue mustache cookie. We're not making mozzarella sticks. Oh no, I play with things in my hand. I'm not hitting a vape. It's literally a pen, and sometimes I put it in my mouth.
Don't vape. Bad for you. Lions, wow!
Lions, wow, with the 5 gifted. Y'all are crazy
right
today.
tonight?
I don't know.
Somebody asked how much wine I've been drinking. Like, that's literally my first glass.
You downed it pretty quick, though. Let's be honest. That was a thick glass.
Was it?
I don't know.
It might have been. I don't know. I'm officially on vacation. I finished summer school today.
Hey!
My bachelor party starts tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Dude, when's the wedding?
October 9th.
Dang, dude. You got 2 months left as a bachelor.
It's DJ. No, not verified on Twitter because that website.
Have you applied for it yet? You could apply now, right? It's been a month.
Bet your ass I did. As soon as they said, as soon as the 30 days were up, it was 2:30 in the morning and I noticed it. I was on the toilet when I reapplied.
Did you apply using different?
Yes.
Okay.
Different way.
You applied it in a different way. So I think. How long ago was that?
It was last Monday.
Okay, so just a little bit over a week and a half.
Yeah, and I think they say it takes like 14 days or something like that.
Yeah, I would say 2 weeks is about how long it took me. If it had been two weeks, I would be like, oh, you're fucked.
I know. Well, trust me, I wouldn't have needed you to tell me that.
You get the best thinking done in there, absolutely. No question.
Oh, that's just mean, DJ. You know that I'm not verified, but you're just poking me.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. What?
I want to see something. So Risden says on the transaction wire, the Rashad Berry signing was listed as tight end, which is interesting.
Because he's thought of to be as a linebacker, right?
Well, okay, so he played mostly tight end in college. I don't know what he was doing in New England. I think he was playing defensive end or outside linebacker in New England. But the Lions announced it as an outside linebacker. So I don't know who to trust here. I feel like it's more important what the Lions said they did, right?
Let's just try to DM him.
DM the Lions?
No, Rashad Berry.
Oh, maybe.
Dude, what are you playing these days?
It's interesting. I also wanted to check to see if anyone got claimed. So Barnett didn't get claimed. Hansen didn't get claimed.
I'm looking at Rashad Berry's tweets right now. Back to back, 12 hours ago. Just Detroit with the little GPS pin drop, and then another tweet. Never been this close to Canada in my life.
Nice. I mean, the Lions need tight end, so it would make sense there. And I don't understand the need for an outside linebacker. So all that tracks, but if that's the case, why do the Lions? Is it just like, is that just the PR department kind of making a mistake and not the front office? I don't know.
I mean, potentially needing a linebacker with the Sean Dion Hamilton news, right?
I suppose, but
But bringing
I think
somebody in this late in camp would be. He's more of like a outside like Austin Bryant.
yeah, I
Like
think
edge
he's more of an
kind.
edge
Yeah.
probably than an off ball like Sean Dion Hamilton. But well, I mean, I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see it out. But
Yeah. Who's to say? Because we don't even really know what kind of tight end he could be.
dang, the whole Lions beat us at the Tigers game today, and I didn't get the dang memo. They're all in the outfield too, trying to catch Miggy's 500th.
Here's a good question. And I think this is something I'd like the chat to weigh in on. If you caught Miguel Cabrera's 500th home run ball, what would you do with it?
Burkett actually put that question. So his two options were. Hold on. I have to get past the weird part where he announced a signing of a Cowboys kicker. Two options: give it back or sell it. I think there's more options to it than that.
I think an underrated option is
It's what?
just keeping it.
No. So I think
I'm just saying I don't think it's as black and white as like you're gonna sell it or you're gonna give it back. I would think about keeping it.
This is how I would play it. I would play it as I need to think about it. The Tigers approach me immediately and say, "Hey, Miggy's willing to give you this for this ball." I say, "Let me think about it." I'm not thinking about it at all. I'm eventually going to give it to Miggy because I think you should.
That's just where it belongs. Yeah.
That's just where it belongs. It is. Either that or in the Hall of Fame or whatever. It doesn't need to be passed around by collectors. It doesn't need to sit on somebody's just a random person's shelf. You're always going to have that memory.
Person, Jeremy.
What?
I'm not a random person, Jeremy.
But I'm saying, like, what's the difference between having a ball sitting on your shelf or a picture of you holding the ball with frickin' Miguel Cabrera? Like, that's just as, like, literally, that's just as worth it to me. So you play hardball a little bit. You pretend like you're thinking it over, but you give it back to Miggy. I think that makes sense.
So that's what you get out of the entire experience is playing hardball with Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man.
Maybe get season tickets and a handful of cash with it too. Like,
I did not hear about the Polish javelin thrower, Dan. I need you to expound on that a little bit. Oh, that's pretty cool. Gave up a silver medal for a kid's operation at Stanford.
Whoa. For a kid's? Just not even his kid, just
Oh, and then somebody got it and gave it back to him.
Dang.
That's a good story.
That's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, if I am gonna give it back to him, part of me wants to just give it back to him out of like the goodness of like this belongs to you.
You want to high road it and not even take anything?
I mean, that's like the ultimate karma, right? Like if you believe
in karma, yeah, you got something coming back to you.
Yeah. I'm just wondering financially what Miguel Cabrera could offer me. like I don't know. It's a silly thing to kind of think about, but
how bad do you think Cabrera wants it? I guess that's another thing you have to kind of figure into the equation. Like, does that sort of thing matter to him?
I mean, how much does it mean to Miguel Cabrera, or maybe potentially how much does it mean to like Cooperstown?
Right.
I mean, Miguel Cabrera considered probably. I mean, he's probably one of the top 5 like right-handed hitters in the history of baseball. I mean, hitting 500 home runs is like no like small feat, right? And especially because he did it in Comerica Park for the majority of his career.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. So
I think he's literally up right now too, by the way. I think I'm going to pull it up on my phone right now. Someone just mentioned that he went foul. He hit a foul ball. That's tweet worthy these days, I guess.
How much is that ball worth, everybody?
Oh, he is literally up right now. See? Should I steal content right now? I probably shouldn't. Huh?
Probably not.
But this could be a potential live reaction. Foul ball.
Foul ball. Wisco Lion fan, there should be a temporary email of Ryan in a tuxedo for his upcoming nuptials.
Ooh.
Nuptials is it's a misleading word to me. It looks dirty. Nuptials looks like a dirty word. I don't know why.
I don't necessarily disagree. Oh, Brad Galley just spoiled it for me.
Strikeout?
No, he's singled.
Singled. Hit the ball hard or don't hit it at all.
Yeah, what are you doing? Just get under it. Just swing lower.
So, Bober says, I read they say it's worth between $50,000 and $100,000. Yeah, I mean, come on. Nobody's going to turn down that money, right? Nobody who's sitting in the bleachers at Comerica Park is going to turn down.
Well, is that coming from a collector or is that coming from Miguel Cabrera? Like, if a collector, let's just say there's this weird scenario which you're sitting next to a collector who says, on the spot, I got a check for $100,000 in my pocket. Give me the ball. And then Tigers come running down to you at the same time and says, hey, let's work out a deal so that we can get this to Miggy. What happens next?
Selling it. All right. So selling it to a collector just seems so dirty. Like the only person that I'd want to sell it to would be Cabrera or like the Baseball Hall of Fame or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somebody saying that A-Rod's 500 ball sold for over 100K. I mean, maybe a little bit more high profile player with Alex Rodriguez. But
It's Bark in the Park tonight. I really should have gone. Zazu would have loved it. Wouldn't you have, buddy? He's feeling very tired right now.
Megan Slay says, what if a dog were to catch it? I would negotiate for like something for Goose, like in terms of like, I want like treats for the rest of his life. I want food for the rest of his life. I want like dog spa treatments for the rest of his life. Like
Who's providing that?
The Detroit Tigers. They can cut a check for. How much would that cost? Honestly, like a dog, like the lifespan of what, 10?
Whoa.
10 grand, 15 grand.
Oh, I thought you were saying like 10 years. I thought you were saying like Zazu's got like, he's got like 10 more years maybe.
Oh, dude,
don't you talk about the mortality of my own dog.
I cannot think about the mortality of Goose because it brings me to tears. I love that dog so much.
Samesies. But anyways, yeah. Let's not talk about dogs dying.
Yeah, geez, what great content now.
I just realized me saying dog really brings out my Michigan accent because I just said dog. My dog dying. Anyways, sorry.
How many glasses of wine have you had, Jeremy?
Not enough.
We were getting close to that semantic satiation that Ted Lasso talks about, by
True.
the way, when we were saying dog. Say
hockey. Is that how you wanted me to say it?
Hockey.
That is how I say it. Hockey. Not hockey.
Hockey?
Is that more Canadian? Hockey? Hockey.
I think hockey is more Canadian.
Is it?
No, it's more like Northeastern for sure.
Yeah.
Like Boston.
Should we get out of here? I think we should get out of here. I got to do a Steelers podcast in an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially because your nasty boy says we went from pissin' impossible to dogs dying.
Wow. Pissin' impossible is a fantastic phrase.
That's the only way I'm going to remember it from now on, by the way.
It's so good. I don't have any friends streaming right. Oh, I do. I have Joshua streaming. What's he playing? That's a weird game that I don't recognize. We're definitely going to rate him again. I don't know. I can't tell from the little thingy.
Hmm.
Split. Oh, he's playing that split game, which is basically like Halo, but with portals that you can shoot.
Oh. Sounds neat. Where?
Clip it. I don't have any friends. How dare you? Let's go raid Joshua again. Our good friend. Don't forget. Okay. Big Pride of Detroit fan. Big Lions fan. As for the rest of the week, I'm not sure if we're gonna do a green room. We're still kind of working out the details there. We might do a pregame green room or something. I don't know. And then Madden Sim either Friday night or Saturday morning, I guess. Maybe Saturday morning, kind of in our normal time slot there. So look out for that. Make sure you're following us on Green Room and here, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. And we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
The hell is this game? Team Shoddy Snipers.